Welcome to the week 4 live stream of the Half Point Per podcast. I'm your host, Evan Riggs, joined as always, last year as always, this year first time on the stream, only the second stream to be fair, by Dalton Willie. Dalton, how are you doing on this Sunday morning? We're about 40 minutes till game time.
I'm doing good. Now is the time of the year where things kind of even out and our analysis starts having a little better trend line to it, and there aren't so many random occurrences. I know there's still occur. We hope. But I mean, and it's Derrick Henry chalk week, so that's always great.
Derrick Henry chalk week. Is he in your DraftKings lineup?
Not the one I'm sharing, but he is in one of my lineups.
Man, I tried really hard, but he's $8,800. Yeah. He's just so expensive. I couldn't quite. I was $100 short of building the lineup I wanted with him in it, so I had the audible.
When Derrick Henry gets 10 targets and 25 rushing attempts, we will all feel stupid for not making him in every lineup.
I saw Field Yates tweet out like a joke, like Derrick Henry stat line this week. It was like 46 carries, like 450 yards, and like it. You know what? It could really be like 35 carries for like 200 yards. Like that could actually happen.
Yeah, it could be, or it could be the week where everybody should have faded him because he just gets bottled up.
It's very possible. And we've got the scroll across the bottom of guys who are out this week. Dalton, I don't know if you saw. Did you see the Gronk news from Jay Glazer like right before we got on? Apparently, he has 4 cracked ribs, a broken rib, and a punctured lung. I think I am questionable for any physical activity just for the rest of the week. Just even like thinking about that, I'd imagine. I know Gronk's not playing tonight. I'm wondering if he's going to be out much longer than that too.
Yeah, it's weird because Field Yates on like Tuesday of this week came out and said, "Oh, he's going to play Sunday night." Mm-hmm. And as the news has come out, I mean, it feels like Gronk's going to miss 3, 4, 5 games. I mean, those pretty gnarly injuries.
He could, and I know it's been said this week by various people that one of the reasons he retired the first time was because he felt like he was tired of having to like rush back from these injuries. So curious to see how long Gronk will be out. Major bummer. I said on Wednesday on the show that I will literally build my DraftKings lineup around a Brady Gronk stack.
It's also an AB revenge game. He was a Patriot for a very short period of time.
That is true. He literally played 1 game, I believe, with the Patriots. Not even in New England. So this will be he's definitely played more games there as a visitor. We can go with that narrative if we want. If we want to really get that going. But Dalton, we can get going with start of the week, sit of the week here, and then get into the DraftKings. No Johnny this morning, stating the obvious. We've got no additional gambling content for you guys. But Dalton, my star of the week, I'm kind of standing in the flames a little bit on this one and going with one of your buy lows, actually, and Kyle Pitts. If you got Kyle Pitts, you roll him out there. He didn't fit in my DraftKings lineup, but he is a guy, depending on your lineup construction, who I'd be looking to get in there. I think he's only $5,000 this week on DraftKings, so he's pretty cheap. Obviously, he's off to a slow start. We talked about it on Wednesday. Don't think that's really much to the fault of Kyle Pitts, more to the fault of Matt Ryan. He is 3rd in most routes run among tight ends. His air yard share is 24.6%, ranked 2nd at the position this year. On the contrary, Matt Ryan is the only quarterback who has yet to complete a pass more than 20 yards down the field in the NFL. I don't know what the exact qualifications are for that list, but I'm assuming there are guys who have played that haven't done that. Maybe Justin Fields, I don't know. But among qualifying guys, he's the only guy to not complete a pass 20 or more yards down the field. I say that ends today. I say Matt Ryan does the impossible and throws 120 yards past the sticks.
Hopefully. And I don't know if you follow Ian Hartitz on Twitter, but every week he does a helicopter player. Mm-hmm. And this week's helicopter player was Kyle Pitts. And he said Kyle Pitts is going for 619 and 2 touchdowns.
And he's facing Washington, which we've talked about a little bit. They have just not been good defensively. So he's got you wouldn't think it's a great matchup just based on reputation from last year, but it's been a good matchup for opposing teams.
Yeah, I believe a lot of people said their floor was a top 5 defense start the season, and they started the season as a bottom 5 defense. So Definitely a get-right game for Atlanta and Kyle Pitts, especially with the injury to Russell Gage. I know he wasn't a big factor in the receiving game, but still more targets for him.
Yep. You would think. All right, who's your star of the week?
So my start of the week is DJ Moore.
Okay.
Trayvon Diggs for the Cowboys hasn't shadowed anybody these first 3 weeks of the NFL, so he's not going to follow DJ Moore around his different positions. And the Carolina Panthers have moved Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore interchangeably. So DJ Moore is going to get looks on that weaker cornerback in the secondary for Dallas. And I mean, the guy owns 28.5% target share for his team. This is a Dallas game that's going to have a lot of points for it. I know there's some people who think the Panthers defense is sneaky good. The Panthers have also played 3 very bad offenses.
The Cowboys defense, can I just say, is kind of sneaky good, I think. And I know you said Diggs hasn't really shadowed anybody this year, but I feel like in week 1, we had the very quiet Mike Evans game. And I don't think that's because Diggs was shadowing Evans. I think that was because the Bucs were like, okay, Mike, you just go and kind of be the decoy with Diggs on you tonight, and we're going to go Goblin, we're going to go Brown, we're going to go Gronk. And so I don't think that's going to happen with Carolina, but I'm just pointing out in week 1. But yeah, I could definitely see DJ Moore this week and any week.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think it's DJ Moore week. I know there's some talk of Robbie Anderson's squeaky wheel game because he's upset about his usage, but I mean, DJ Moore is just becoming closer and closer to that alpha wide receiver we've thought he's been for the last 2-ish years.
Yeah, gotta love the coach immediately after last week's game being like, man, we have got to get, like, Robbie Anderson needs more touches. It's like, well, if only you knew a guy who could possibly make that happen.
It's like Matt Nagy saying everything is going wrong. And it's like, well, you were the one in charge. Please make things right.
To be fair, not getting Robbie the touches has not come back to bite them. But also, this is the first full game without Christian McCaffrey. I think we saw last week against even the Texans, who are not a good team by any stretch, that they were moving the ball with ease, mostly using McCaffrey as a decoy, and the Texans were biting on every play action, every like fake screen or like fake route that McCaffrey ran, and they were opening up a lot of stuff across the field. So I will be curious how that offense functions this week without McCaffrey against a pretty good defense.
Yeah, and I'm curious how the targets kind of shape out, because I don't think I know Mike Davis isn't a world beater, but he definitely was a lot more of a receiving talent than Hubbard and Royce Freeman are.
Yeah, especially Royce Freeman. Hubbard can definitely do it a little bit. But my sit of the week, this is not going to be like breaking news by any means, but if you have Tyson Williams, you cannot play him this week. Seen reports already this morning from ESPN that it wouldn't be a shock if Latavius Murray was the lead back this week. Frankly, it wouldn't be a shock to me if literally anything happened in that Baltimore backfield this week, because I really thought that we kind of had a beat on that backfield last week, where it was like, and I played Tyson in DraftKings. I started him in another league, so I got burned multiple places by him and by that feeling last week. We thought that it was a committee, but Tyson was the leader of that committee because he hadn't really done anything, I don't think, to get himself benched. But it just didn't happen last week in what should have been a very good matchup for him and for the Ravens. 2.2 fantasy points. He only had like 2 or 3 carries in the whole game. You have to wait a week at least and see what happens this week. If he has a big game on your bench, that's just kind of the cross you have to bear, for lack of a better term. This week, you just kind of have to let that one roll off your back if that does happen, because you could very easily get burned again if you play him this week.
Yeah, and not to mention he's going up against a very good front seven in Denver. So it's going to be a rough game all around. They also just activated Bell off the practice squad, which is just another mouth to feed in that offense.
Yeah, I'm like Devonta Freeman. Like, are all 4 of those guys going to be active today?
They're all active from what I've seen.
So who's playing special teams? Who's playing special? Is it Tyson? Is Tyson playing special teams? I can't imagine Devonta Freeman or Le'Veon Bell playing special teams, and I don't think Latavius Murray will be.
No, and so if it's Tyson playing special teams, that's just even a bigger ding at this point.
Can you imagine Le'Veon Bell playing special teams and just doing like his pitter patter, like covering a punt or something? Like, no, you can't run like that every play, Le'Veon. You have to just run sometimes.
He's waiting for his blockers to develop a lane for him behind.
Your sit of the week.
In the same vein as you, I'm going for a guy that you can probably move out of your lineup if you have anybody available, and it's Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman draws Xavier Howard this week, and I think the Colts are going to probably have a good get-right game, or at least play better than they have the last couple of weeks.
This should be a Jonathan Taylor get-right spot.
Should be. But I think Xavier Howard, he's shadowed all 3 games. He's played against the guy, and I mean, Michael Pittman's not going to be better than Xavier Howard. No. On his best days. And then with Carson Wentz throwing the ball to him, it's even more worrisome. And Michael Pittman
and Quentin Nelson finally missing his first game, I think, as an NFL player as well.
Yeah, so I'm just not hopeful about this. Game's probably going to be one of the uglier ones on the slate, with Jacoby Brissett playing quarterback, and Carson Wentz probably is going to be under pressure, like he is always. And I just don't think Michael Pittman's going to have the wherewithal to get open. I think this game's going to be a running back game for both Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor.
And this shouldn't necessarily be something that comes into like your decision-making process, but just worth noting, I think Brent Hundley is the backup for the Colts this week. I'm not sure what's going on with their other backups, but should something happen to Carson Wentz, which seems to often happen,
he's on 2 broke ankles as far
he's on two sprained ankles. It's not looking, it's looking even worse behind Carson Wentz this week. So yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm probably shelving Michael Pittman if I have him as well.
Yeah. So not the greatest start, but you definitely a guy that's probably in your flex consideration. I don't think he is warranting it this week.
Yeah, and he's a guy, I think I played him week 2 in DraftKings, and he had a great game, and I think he is going to be good enough to be your starter and your flex or your wide receiver 2 spot for a lot of the season. But yeah, this week I'm probably passing up on that. I agree. Yep. All right. So Dalton, let's get the DraftKings, and I will let you start us off here.
Okay, I'm not going to reveal the Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey stack lineup because that lineup.
I am legitimately curious what you did with other positions.
Kyle Juszczyk is in that lineup, so take that for what you will. But I'm going with Matty Stafford down at QB. That Cardinals defense has been questionable at best. I'm stacking the entire Rams, but my bring back is going to be Chase Edmonds. He got the vaunted 1 carry inside the 5-yard line last week. But this game's going to be just
round of applause. Great job, Chase.
This game is just going to be so high flying that I kind of want a lot of exposure to it. Running back for the week, I'm going with Trey Sermon. This Seahawks defense has not been good, and I think he's going to be the lead back. So that means Jaquez Patrick is going to be the lead back.
Let me tell you, a lot of those Niners guys, like Trey Sermon, Ayuk is also, they're both 5,000. I agonized over both of those guys a lot, and neither of them made my lineup cut. I could only get hurt by Kyle Shanahan so many times.
I almost put Ayuk into this lineup, but instead I went with Emmanuel Sanders. I just went with a cheaper bill. No, they're going to face the Houston defense. Tim Patrick is in my flex spot. This Ravens defense they're not world beaters anymore. Without KJ Hamler, Patrick really has that entire wide receiver 2 role.
Well, and Patrick has been like one of the most efficient catches, percentage of his targets caught this season. And last week I think he caught 5 of 6 targets, and they barely had to throw. So theoretically, they're going to have to throw the ball more against Baltimore this week than against the Jets last week.
And he's 4,900. He's so cheap. Flex out. I'm getting more exposure to this game. Rondale Moore. I think they're going to have to utilize some touches against a better defense this week. And then at tight end, I paid up for Travis Kelce. Guy's just so good. It's hard not to want to own him. And then defense, I thought the Lions were a really good cheap option. I mean, until Matt Nagy shows he's willing to make some crazy play calls and move Justin Fields around, it's just going to be easy goes for the Lions and it's a rookie quarterback they're starting against this week again.
Yeah, that's not a bad call. So I started with Jalen Hurts, and I sent you one of my underdog prop bets that was Hurts total lines this week, and it's not. I mean, partially that I don't really believe in the Chiefs defense, but even if they play well, the Chiefs offense is going to put up points today. And they do about every day, but I think they're going to put up a good game today. Hopefully, no turnovers, all that things coming from the Chiefs fan. But so the Eagles are going to have to try and keep up, I think, in this scenario. So I think just out of sheer volume today, Hurts is going to be a good play. And, all he has to do is rush for 50 yards and throw a decent amount and score a touchdown or two, and I think he hits on this value. So I told you earlier, I tried really hard to get Derrick Henry in this lineup. And in the lineup that I did have Derrick Henry, I was $100 over. Rondale Moore was my flex that I desperately wanted. So with you on liking Rondale Moore in that game today, couldn't quite fit that lineup. I went with Alvin Kamara at 8,400 against the Giants. So I believe this is the first home game for the Saints this year today. Is that correct?
That is correct. Because their first game was in Florida. It was supposed to be a home game, but Hurricane Ida ruined that.
We're going with a little narrative street. Number one, first home game in the Dome. I think the Saints and the Giants are just not good. And that's really it. First home game and the Giants not being very good. I think Kamara is going to tear up that Giants defense this week. Saints are going to win. DeAndre Swift at 6,200. He's been just awesome this year. I saw a stat. I don't have it in front of me, but I think in a PPR league, if he hadn't even received a carry this season, he'd be like running back 16 or something like that. He's just been so good in the passing game. We know the matchup isn't the best against the Bears, but 6,200, I just don't really think his price point has caught up to the production yet this year. And then I went with Odell at 5,800. He looked pretty good last week, and they play Minnesota, which I think is a pretty fantasy-friendly matchup for opposing offenses. And he's kind of the only reliable game in town, just from a receiver perspective on Cleveland. And 5,800, that helped me fit Cooper Kupp in the lineup at 7,800.
He's in my lineup too. He just feels cheap still. I mean, he's not the highest priced.
Well, and then it's funny, when I was trying to make the other lineup with Rondale Moore work, the next guy down is DeAndre Hopkins. I'm like, I don't think I want Hopkins and Rondale Moore. I do think Hopkins is going to have a big game this week, but I just like Kupp more than the guys like within like that $500 to $800 range. So I went with Cooper Kupp, and the reason is pretty self-explanatory. Like, the guy has been one of the best players in football this year. He's just been awesome. Tim Patrick at 4,900 for all the reasons that you and I talked about earlier. And Lil Firkser action at tight end.
Daddy.
I think some people, I think a lot of people, I think the kind of chalk play is going to be the cheap receivers in that game.
Kynan.
With both and Chester Rogers, with both Julio and AJ Brown out. I'm trying to pick up a piece of that passing game with Firkser. So we'll see. It's his first game back from knee injury that cost him a couple weeks. Hoping he has a touchdown this week. I think he actually could have a nice game, and he's 3,100. So like he's just dirt cheap. And then at my flex, I'm going with a pure volume play this week. The most disgusting, not because of the player, the situation, the most disgusting volume chasing possible in my flex with Jalen Waddle at 4,900. The guy had 12 catches last week. I think he's like third.
Did he clear 50 yards on 12 catches? I know it's close.
I don't know, but this is PPR. So if you get a lot of catches, that's really all you need to do in DraftKings to hit on value at 4,900. I think he's like third. I saw on Twitter this morning, third all time in the Super Bowl era in receptions through like his first 3 games of his career. It's just crazy, and I don't really see why it's going to be that much different this week. A lot of horizontal stuff to Jalen Waddle with Jacoby Brissett and a bad offensive line back there. It's purely chasing volume. And hey, if he makes a guy miss and takes a jet sweep for 75 yards, that's going to win me my week right there. So really kind of closing my eyes and not watching that game and putting Waddle in the lineup. And then with the defense, to make this lineup work, I had to go with the cheapest of the defenses with the Jets at 2,000. Yeah, they're playing Derrick Henry. That's probably not going to be great. If the Jets can just not go negative for me, just 0 points, that'd be a win. So that's all I'm really hoping for in that regard.
Well, that's a good lineup. The Jets could hurt you.
They could.
Any defense could. I'm worried about rostering. It might be the Jets.
The Jets defense actually isn't terrible. Their offense, however, is terrible.
It's terrible. Do you want to hear this vaunted Patrick Mahomes stack?
Go for it.
So Of course, Mahomes at quarterback.
You get the full screen for this one.
I managed Devin Singletary as my first running back.
Well, Dalton with the weather updates on
it's
Twitter,
a big rain game
in Buffalo.
In Buffalo, apparently, so they'll probably run the ball a little more. Bad for Josh Allen truthers. Running back, I had to go dirt cheap at the second slot. It's Kyle Juszczyk. You know what? He had 10 touches last week, and he had 42% of the running back work, and he got the red zone work. So there's profit to be made there. Tyreek Hill is my first wide receiver. Then Rondale Moore. I was able to still manage to afford him. Allen Lazard is incredibly cheap. And you know what? Allen Lazard was good when he had his chance to shine last year before his injury. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is out, so I expect him to slot into that deep role and hope they take some shots. Travis Kelce, DJ Moore was affordable in my flex. So
wow, you're able to still work DJ Moore.
Yeah, I was able to work DJ Moore.
How much was Allen Lazard? Like 3,000?
3,700, I think.
Yeah,
and then Lions defense.
I can dig that play. Lions defense. What was the Lions defense cost this week?
2,200.
So they're the third cheapest.
Yeah,
I was looking at the bottom two, and I think the second cheapest was the Texans. And I was like, okay, I'd rather be the Jets playing the Titans than the Texans playing the Bills. That could be a negative like 10 type of game. So that was my thinking there. But yeah, I like it. Dalton, we've got about 18 minutes till kickoff. I think we're going to get out of here after about 20 minutes of show. It was good to talk to you this morning, hoping for nothing but the best for both of our DraftKings lineups, hoping for, I thought my lineup, I know you weren't here last week. I thought my lineup was just great last week, and Matt Nagy just took a big old dump on what I thought was going to be a winning lineup. So no Bears for at least the next month for me in DraftKings, and we'll see how that plays out.
Well, I'm going with the fade Matt Nagy because every lineup I made has the Lions defense. So
you know what? I'm feeling a big game. I might have to make a second lineup with a Bear now. I'm feeling a big game now that I think about it. All right, we will talk to you guys again, I believe, on Wednesday of this week for the podcast. Tune in here and also obviously listen on iTunes, Spotify, all of that. Best of luck to everybody on their matchups this week, and we'll talk to you